This is from Metaphysical Meditations by Paramahansa Yogananda, and it's called Never Lose Hope. If you have given up hope of ever being happy, cheer up. Never lose hope. Your soul, being a reflection of the ever joyous spirit, is, in essence, happiness itself. If you keep the eyes of your concentration closed, you cannot see the sun of happiness burning within your bosom. But no matter how tightly you close the eyes of your attention, the fact nevertheless remains that the happiness rays are ever trying to pierce the closed doors of your mind. Open the windows of calmness, and you will find a sudden burst of the bright sun of joy within your very self. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. So I hope the happiness rays are piercing your mind these days. It's a great image. And welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here again today. Some of you will be here for the first time, so I wanted to do a quick recap of, very quick, what we talked about last week. We talked about Polestar and its history and its checkered career through volcanic eruptions and many different adventures and misadventures, and how we eventually found this property in Fort Collins that we're really excited about. We have Dennis and Bailey with us today. They're going to share about that property and the amazing community they had built there over many years of farming. And then we just talked about the vision we have. It's basically a community where it's a walkable community where you have people of like mind intentionally creating it. You know, I was thinking about this development. If we, some group of us don't develop this property, somebody will. A developer will go in there. You look at how this is normally done in our society. Somebody generally with a profit motive, and nothing wrong with that necessarily. They're providing a service to the community, but there's not so much thought put in necessarily into the quality of the community, the relationships, the intention behind why people would live together. And this is why intentional community is so much different. And I think it has a whole lot of potential for, and I know many of you have lived in community and so understand this, so much more potential for human growth, human fulfillment, a lot more of a connected lifestyle. Last week, I talked informally about our vision and mission, which is a good thing to do. But I wanted to very briefly share some of the written things we have about our mission and vision. And those of you who have been to Polestar, which is quite a few of you on the screen there, may remember that one of our favorite quotes comes from Stephen Covey. And we're using this often. And basically what he says is, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So meditate on that for a minute. You have to decide what is most important. And then you have to keep what's most important in focus. And that is surprisingly difficult if you've ever tried it. And the process of keeping that in focus is just very, very important to have in your daily and weekly habits. But anyway, what I consider about mission and vision work is the best mission and visions are constantly being renewed, constantly being refreshed, constantly being fine-tuned. They really are the Polestar. They're the thing that you are focusing on as your ultimate goal. So I'm going to just share a couple of things. Our simple mission statement, which is, Polestar creates dynamic opportunities for lifelong learning and spiritual growth based on the universal teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. So I could have saved us about 20 minutes last week just by reading that. And then we've got a few things under our values, which are worth mentioning right now. Our essential purpose is the deepening of the spirit. We seek to create a culture that values spirit, community, and lifelong learning. We strive to express the universal teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda and other great spiritual traditions. We aspire to celebrate the sacredness of life in the company of dear friends. So there's more there, but that gives you a little idea. And that last one I really like in the context of community. It's just to be in the presence of others who you have deep connections with, deep friendships, people who are really involved. I always really felt this with the young people that we were responsible for in our lives, when they had diverse relations of people who cared for them and cared about nurturing them. It created an environment that was just ideal in a lot of ways. So with that, I'm going to, just a little bit about what's coming up. We're going to keep going on Sundays, talking about different aspects of our community. And this Sunday is Easter Sunday, so we're going to skip a week. So in another week, we'll meet, and then we'll go right through the list. There's so much to talk about: governance, legal structures, financial realities, design, and many different topics we can just go through. So we'll post those so you can see what the community meeting will be about. And but for right now, I wanted to hand off to Dennis and Bailey, and I'll do a brief introduction. We met them at Ananda Village many, many years ago, probably working on 40 years ago. And they were married there. For those of you who know, at the old retreat temple, which I think that's the one that burned down, if I'm not mistaken. There's a new one there now, but it was a dome. And they got some great pictures of that. And Prakash did the wedding, for those of you who know him. And then they visited Polestar some time ago. So before the lava had come and we were disrupted by the volcano. So that was really nice to get them to see what it was like in its kind of heyday. But as I mentioned last week, they have been the farmers on Happy Heart Farm, which is a 9-acre parcel in the city of Fort Collins. It was the first CSA in the state of Colorado and one of the first in the country. And so they're going to share about, I hope, a little bit about their history and some visions about the garden and the community.
Thanks everybody for coming today. We are so grateful to be a part of this exciting new adventure. We will start with a little bit of history, and it's really our hope that we can advance quickly into from history and context into what we hope to bring to the table with the new Polestar Village that is of great spiritual development for a community that already exists here and has been here for 42 years now? 38 years is the Happy Heart Farm. Please excuse the informality of it. We still haven't quite adjusted to grouping together around Zoom or whatever this is called. So our presentation today is informal. It doesn't have a lot of media to carry you with visual aids or anything, but we hope to convey a feeling of gratitude and of joy to the next step, the next adventure for all of us that are magnetized and drawn towards this. I do want to give us a sort of a place and a time sense. As Michael mentioned, it is Palm Sunday. It's also a super full moon in Libra. And in terms of the biodynamic agriculture, which we've been practicing since we stepped foot on this land here, it's a good day to be planting roots. And so I'm taking that as a kind of an indication of the possibilities that we're forming together here as we reconnect. A point that we were able to recognize when Michael and Ann first came to visit here is that it's important for our advancement, our evolution together, to recognize and acknowledge that the community that we are seeking to establish is already established. We are in community. And I would like to extend that to the intention that we have towards the Happy Heart Farm. This is a community that is already established. And the point that we're asked to talk about today is, what is that intention towards the farm and the farming and the gardening? And again, from a biodynamic standpoint, the Happy Heart Farm is not a parcel or a property, it's a living being. It's an entity. It has its own livingness that is, in fact, in the community with those that are magnetized to that sensitivity of place and time. So as we talk about, well, how can we as the human element, as the farmers, as the stewards, help that entity to evolve to its highest being? We have to reconsider the whole idea of what is development. In a lot of terms, and we do live in a boom town, Fort Collins, like the rest of Colorado, and probably wherever you guys are from and wherever it's happening, development is oftentimes called growth. And when we look at how development usually happens, it's the first thing you do is scrape off the topsoil so that you can start managing the other kinds of infrastructures that are necessary to put in the houses and the other structures that go into making what we call a community. But I wanted to bring to point that that community already involves a relationship of the people that are our neighbors already, the people that have brought their children to us for 30 years, the hundreds of apprentices that we have brought to the Happy Heart Farm, the many people that are here in Fort Collins already that are very, very heartfelt concerned about what is going to happen to the sacredness of that soil that we have developed as a community over the last 30 years. And so I want to acknowledge right away that some of the people that are in on this Zoom talk are our dear old friends, our old neighbors, our parents that have brought to us now 3 generations of children for the learning opportunities that the farm is. And so it's really our hope today to make this an invitation of the Polestar Village community into the existing community that is the Happy Heart Farm. So yeah, so our history personally, we had just been in another little community that, and Carrie's here to represent for that community, called the Sunset Skirth Farm, when one of our members had been out to a 10-year-old Ananda community and was so able to get connected with Ananda that we actually had Kriyananda himself come to the Sunset Skirth Farm out here in Fort Collins. And that was a fun day for us all. We met Asha and a lot of the old-timey folks out there. And we were taken so much by that Bailey and I went out to Ananda to attend the first yoga teacher training course that was offered there at Ananda. It was a deepening for us as a couple. We came back to Fort Collins for a short amount of time. Things made it possible for us to move over here to the Happy Heart Farm. We'd only been here for 6 months when we decided that with our new child, we needed to go to Ananda. And I see Carol's over there to go to the brand new, what was being formed of the How to Live schools out there. And so our young son was early in the How to Live schools out there. So education and how to live was very much a part of the thing that we were learning when we were at the yoga teacher training course. I've got 2 minutes left.
For 10 minutes, yes.
Okay. I knew I'd get stuck in history. Yeah. But meeting Michael and Ann out there in those early days, and then coming back, and we were in intention to be living at Ananda for the rest of our lives. We were coming back to Colorado to sell the farm that we had just purchased 6 months ago. And we had a big car wreck that made it very necessary for us to land here in Fort Collins. So we knew we were about community. We didn't know exactly how, but we started dreaming the concept that became community supporting agriculture. And I want to bring that to the table because it's usually said as community supported agriculture, but the reality of it is it's community supporting agriculture because it's a present tense consciousness. And it goes both ways. It's the agriculture supporting the community and the community supporting the agriculture. And that's the kind of a loop that we think is a really necessary combination to really honor and to really be in truth with the community that includes the sacredness of the soil and the livingness of the soil and the water and the sunlight and all those spiritual amendments that make the magic of the possibility of agriculture. Let's see if I can jump in here. We have people on the Zoom talk that have some great offerings, we think, to this intentional neighborhood, as we're calling it, that would like to carry on the tradition that we have brought to the soils here at the Happy Heart Farm of great ideas to make some of the realities about what we're guessing might be the intention a workable reality. So far, the plan is that maybe 3 to 4 acres of the 19-acre community may be the community garden. If the intention for the community is to be self-sufficient with food, that simply isn't enough land to carry that kind of an intention. So looking into the future, we would like to propose the concept that the whole 19 acres is actually the farm, and that with very clear intention, we can plan around all the houses being green houses in the sense that we're all growing the food together with a lot of intentionality. And I keep pounding on that word because that's what I hear we're calling this, is an intentional neighborhood. But we're kind of testing the waters here a little bit because how much of that intention is to actually be as self-sufficient as we can in the arena of food. And I know we don't have enough time to cover all your questions about how we have farmed or how we could farm, but the new urban agriculture very much allows for us to give concept to with very conscious allocation of the main resource that's so important out here, besides a piece of land, is water. In the native language, and very much a part of the initiation of our times right now, the Lakota statement is Mini Wachoni, water is life. And from a spiritual standpoint, we're talking about water as substance, but much more water as essence. Part of our negotiations back and forth with Michael is trying to get everybody to become aware of how precious that water is. And we are so lucky because we have water that comes right to the farm here. It's a little ditch that we call the Pleasant Valley ditch, but it's actually the Poudre River that comes right to our farm here. There's lots of pieces of land around here in Fort Collins. There's not very many pieces that can bring water to the land. So essentially, we're asking people to give consideration to how can we best utilize water. Folks, we're trying to grow food in a high windy desert. The native food crops here were buffalo. Well, I'm saying that because it's a high, dry grassland. Vegetable crops, annual crops, and the rotation of annual crops it takes a lot of consciousness outside of the realm of scientific data to get enough water, to get enough nutrients, especially when you're doing rotations, to actually come to the place where you can grow cabbages and carrots and annual crops especially. That being said, biodynamics in a short term is sacred agriculture. It's going to what we call energy level of crop. And so, let's see, how about, I know my time is up.
You can go a little longer.
There's so much to be said. I don't want to really get too much into the details as much as try to give a feeling of it's so exciting that there is the possibility of having gardening and farming as an intentionality. The space and the water are as much limitations as they can be in this high windy desert, but it's the consciousness of the community that can transcribe the physical material appearances of things into a Garden of Eden. And so the intentionality that we'd like to bring to the table is how much intention do we as a community have to this? It will really impact the planning. And the water and the land are only one of the resources. The finances and how they're adjusted around are so much different in this paradigm than we're just trying to sell a bunch of nice new houses in what used to be some open fields. So with that said, this is the kind of community, the spiritually oriented community, that can make those kinds of magic happen. And they are in the context of a history where the magic of the livingness in the soil has been the spiritual glue that has brought together some beautiful, beautiful communities. And it's here, and those people and those nature spirits and that livingness that is an angel spirit, that is the Happy Heart Farm, is really, really looking forward to blossoming forth. And with that, I'll take a pause.
Thank you. I wanted to say, I find that image very inspiring. It's a 19-acre garden, you know, and actually I want to, it's a good chance to to mention in this context that when we chose the name Polestar Gardens, it was a double entendre, or however you say that word, but because Yogananda uses this image of garden in different ways, and garden of souls. So many things are growing in the garden. So anyway, thanks for that. That was a great introduction, Dennis. Here's one question for the uninitiated. Could you give just a little bit on biodynamic approach to gardening? Yeah, just say a little bit more about that. I'll bet other people have that question. And then we'll open it up for anybody else who has questions. That might be a hard thing to answer briefly, but do your best. It'll be interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think you know me, Michael. Any question is a hard thing for me to answer in a brief sentence or two. Partly
Yeah.
because there's so much to say about it. In a nutshell, biodynamics has been called by the movement sacred agriculture. Biodynamics is the outgrowth of the seer Rudolf Steiner, who also brought to the world Waldorf education and eurythmy and all kinds of spiritual awarenesses. And biodynamic agriculture is the first pronounced organic movement. Rudolf Steiner brought his teachings to the world in 1924, right after and at the very same time as the First World War's armaments were turned into chemical fertilizers. And he was seeing at that time the necessity to be seeing beyond the material appearances of NKP and into the livingness of the handful of soil that has more life in it than there are stars in the universe, the microbials, the microflora. And so it's trying to, in a sense, bring balance to science, spirit to nature, brought into a lexicon of words that can be described to people that are already sensitive in some kind of a spiritual way. So the practices are pretty arcane. The ceremonies of basically homeopathy, in a sense, that it's more about the energetics than it is about the substance or the concentration of substance. So it's essence more than substance. So we stir into water, which is the element that's all the livingness that's conveyed. We stir into water, for example, ground up quartz crystals, and it's a silica element that is a silica essence that's stirred into pure water, rainwater or snow water, if we can get it, or river water, the Poudre River, for an hour so you stir it, and then you stir a chaotic stirring in the opposite direction for exactly an hour, which is an earth unit of time that translates then into a backpack sprayer that you're spraying basically water with nothing in it onto your plants right at the summer solstice, which is a perfectly timed astrological time to bring that silica element into the plants so that they can translate light into life. It enhances the chlorophyll magic to produce more alive food.
Wow.
Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's biodynamics in a nutshell. Now, it's the first of the regenerative agricultural practices, and it's already 100 years old, but it's coming to light more and more in people's consciousness as we as a people evolve. So
Very
how
good.
was that, Michael? Short
Yeah.
enough?
Yeah, good job. Good job. Yeah, no, that's great. All right, well, why don't we open it up
I have
and,
a question that's
okay.
come through. It might
Nina
be-
has one.
It
Go
might
ahead.
be for both of you. The question is the land Lakota land? And if not, whose native land is it? And has there been any thought put into how the Polestar neighborhood will give back to the people whose land it originally?
I'm not sure I heard the whole question.
Okay.
No, this is Arapaho land originally.
Okay, so the question was, whose land is it originally? And then the question is, has the Polestar team thought about how they will give back to the people whose land it originally was?
Dennis,
Have any-
you want to answer that? I think it's for him, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it originally the Arapaho was the tribe here. And how are we going to get back to that?
Give back.
Give back. It's a great question. We have lots of ceremonies here that are earth-centered, and with great respect, we take some of those ceremonies and try to bring them to, I guess you could say, the rest of us that are here now. But there's very much subtle information that we have to bring. It's more in the receiving end than in that, more in the give back. But the giveaway is the alternative economic system that I think we're really trying to get back to. Rather than capitalism, it's the potlatch, it's the give back, it's the giveaway. If one has more than they need, it's their duty as a community member to give that to somebody that needs it more than they do. That's not exactly an answer to the question you asked, but that's the best I can do right now.
No, thank you. I think that's a good answer. And I think the gift back is your life. Really, it's how you live it. You live according to your deepest understanding, to your highest light, to your best sense of giving your life, and that certainly can take more formal expression. But I think it's a moment-to-moment thing. It's not really anything that comes and goes or that ever stops. Really, I think it's just the eternal attitude of service. Really, is what it is. And I see that written all over your guys' lives and how you live. I mean, it's sort of like looking in the mirror with them, because they've done it for decades. A lot of young people, mentored many young people. It just really was wonderful to meet them and see what they've done in these past many years, and to explore this sort of confluence of energies, this collaboration. And so my belief is that there will be a lot of rabid gardeners in this community, and that will be a very happening thing. In the designs we're looking at, the community dining hall is directly adjacent to the main dedicated garden space, farming space. And it's really what we tried to do here at Polestar as well on the Big Island. How can you get more food into people's diets? And there was a point at which it's not an impressive amount, but we thought we reached around 50% of our produce was coming from the land here. And it was surprising how meaningful that was, actually, on so many levels, and not the least of which was health and vitality. It was definitely an important contribution to the quality of life. So I think that's a giving back just in and of itself. Improving life at that level is really a great thing.
I guess I could jump in on that a little bit. Steiner's premise when he was giving the education about the biodynamic agriculture was that the soil had lost its ability to carry the spiritual impetus for people to evolve, uh, for them to really incarnate into their potential because of the denuding of the life through through not only chemical desertification, but through the consciousness of the people of what that livingness and the cycle of nutrition and food had really, it had been lost on people in the new convenient shopping kind of era that we're in. So,
Right. All right. Who else has a question? Anyone else? Can we just unmute and say it? If you would like to go ahead, unmute yourself. Para, you did. Go ahead.
Hi. I love that you're doing biodynamics. I did study biodynamics at the Rudolf Steiner College in Sacramento and learned the basics. Some of it I can't remember, but are you at the stage in your farm where you also have animals incorporated in the system? One of the things that we used there was actually ducks. They were a great help in eating up the bad insects you don't want destroying your lettuce. So I'm wondering what kind of animals you already have on the farm.
it's a really good question. We're in the city, and the cities have kind of made it impossible to grow sacred cows, which is the cow is the main animal that's considered in biodynamics. Now, the Fort Collins area is, well, there's a big A on the hill because the Colorado State University is here. And so that's the State Ag College. And the big A on the hill that you look at from our farm stands for agriculture. But it really stands for agribusiness. Agriculture is a kind of a different thing than agribusiness. Now, to your point, the way we've gotten around, you've got to have animals in a full cycle biodynamic farm, is we have taken the urban experiment that we have, which is fruits and vegetables mostly, and we've kind of farmed out in a regional sense where we get our cow manure and our rabbit manures and some of the manures that are then composted in a way that brings livingness to dung. Basically it's a main part of any kind of organic system, but our organic animal products are because the Happy Heart Farm is a part of a regional farm, a network of farms that takes the limited amount of space and the restrictions that we have around animals and makes it a possibility because we're in another layer of community with the farmers that live in Fort Collins, the ag college town of Colorado. So the animals that are allowed in this area and on our farm are chickens and domestic animals, which we keep the domestic animals out of the agricultural equation. But those are the animals that we legally can have right on the site here. But I hope I've explained it, how we get around that with our community. We started the first CSA in Colorado, but right now in Fort Collins, and this is probably a little dated information, but we started a movement. Our concept all along was there should be a CSA in every neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so there was at some point, I don't know if it's declined a little bit, I imagine it has, but at some point there was 30 CSAs in the Fort Collins region. And again, I don't know what the current number on that is, but at one time we had more CSAs in the Fort Collins area than we had breweries. And that's saying a lot for, they call ourselves the Napa Sonoma of beers is Fort Collins. So
Do you have beehives?
we have had beehives. Currently, we have hives here that are wild hives.
Uh-huh. Wild is good.
We work with a beekeeper here, and I have lots of beautiful roses. And so I created a rose infused honey, and I won a national award with that several years ago. And so I'm hoping to transplant these roses all over the community, and we all can be involved in picking the roses. It happens in June. Right now, with the level we have of production, we pick over 5,000 roses in 3 weeks. So
Wow.
high amount in one day is 600 to 700 roses. And then it's stirred in honey, and the honey takes on the flavor of the roses. It's quite amazing.
Do you have mason bee houses as well?
We don't house the bees. The beekeeper has her bees over in Longmont nearby.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. And I can personally attest to the wonder of the rose honey. So, yeah, highly recommended. Cool. Any other questions? Probably got time for one or maybe two more.
Michael, could I,
Maitri's got one. Oh, sorry.
If I can ask mine, I,
Go for it.
oh, okay. Well, I was just curious that why at this time did you folks decide to sell your property for this cause? And if you, what, I guess I'm not entirely clear what your role is here. How do you perceive your role? I guess I'd like to say, and if you find it challenging, it sounds like this has been your baby for a long time, and how you able to open yourself into this, it sounds to me like a little more expansive vision. If you could just elaborate a little bit more on that, I would be interested.
well, thanks. It's a really good question. So about 5 years ago, we tested the waters of our expanded vision of agrihood with another set of entities that had proposed that we were kind of running out of our ability personally to subsidize the agricultural and the community aspect of it. Any of you that have been in community knows that the pay to play kind of program at a certain point runs out of personal ability to do this. Now, I guess what I'm saying is we needed to consider our business partner, who's a family member that was aging, that was also running out of her ability to maintain, and we needed to come up with a way to get more funding to take care of our aging business partner and family member. The idea of expanding the Happy Heart Farm Agricultural Project into real estate is the financial driver of urban agriculture. It's just a reality. And so 5 years ago, when we first floated this idea, it didn't pencil out for the developers that came. So we've been on about a 4-year hiatus. The farm has been for sale. We've looked at a lot of different kinds of possibilities. I actually had a vision of Michael while we were out picking the roses before we came to the Ananda 50th anniversary. I guess I have to say personally, I felt like I was guided to offer this possibility because we knew we were going to see Michael at the 50th anniversary at Ananda. And when we saw him, I said, come out and take a look. If it sounds good, I knew they were on their walkabout. And so that's kind of a nutshell. We're really hopeful that this, and that's going to be in the next, one of the next series of Sundays is, can we make this dreamable thing a financial possibility? So does that answer your question, Mayatri? Or are there parts of it that I could give more amplification to?
Well, what I guess what the second part of the question is, so will you be the guiding influence on the farm part? Is that your perceived role? I'm just trying to, I didn't know if it sounds like you're planning to stay there, and so, but I was just unclear about that. So, because I knew you were selling the property, but now it sounds like you are there and you will be there. And I think, I just wanted to hear more about sort of what you thought your role was, and you saw that there'd be any challenges to, I mean, maybe you can't perceive that for sure, but it just sounds like when it's all been, under your care for all these years, and then, there's this big grand plan, sounds sort of exciting, but also scary,
Absolutely. Thank you. It's terrifying.
Well, you won't be alone.
As we always say, what could possibly go wrong?
So let's see. We don't know yet. We're doing this from a long distance, kind of do this through the COVID. Our hope is, and we have been trying to do this for quite some time, is that we can transition our leadership role to the next generation. And there are so many young people that are looking for an opportunity and purposefulness. And as I say, we've been personally involved with over 100 apprentices that we hoped would start. Now, I know Polestar community has got a lot of these young people that have a hope that they can start filling in the shoes as we elders kind of step back from that leadership role. We have people on the line in this Zoom call that very much would like to share with you their very great ideas about how we could proceed with this very expansive dream. And it's our hope, in a nutshell, that we can ease ourselves out of the maybe more of the physical parts of it and more into the mentorship, stewardship, and bring the next generation. And I would say again, in the native terms, we have always said, may this be your home and your children's to the 7th generation. So our impulse is deep into the future for our soils and for our young people. Andrea Vanderbilt is on the line with us. She has a beautiful company and she runs our greenhouse right now. She has a beautiful company that's called Teach Me to Grow. And she's got a plan in mind already of how we could take the sacred soils of the Happy Heart Farm, move them around in such a way that we're maximizing the soil, and from there bring as many of the already expert gardeners or wannabe gardeners into a place where the educational and the production parts, the two sides of what we have always thought the garden and the farm is, into fruition in the Polestar Gardens. So there are people in line that we think, and there are probably more that we haven't even met yet, that can help us to figure out how to move the ball down the court a little bit. And so I hope that answers your question, Maitri.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you brought that point out, Dennis, because I think, my plan is to get out of the way at the earliest possible moment. We can set this thing, we can, begin the culture of this kind of spiritual intention and really give the growth opportunities for young people like we've had all our lives to grow into, stewarding it. And so I think that is a really, really important point to bring out. Thank you. We are determined to wrap up and keep it to an hour so we don't abuse anyone's time. So I really want to thank both of you. We didn't hear enough from you though, Bailey, I gotta say, but it's great to see you.
I have a kind of semi-family emergency situation, and so I'm waiting a phone call and might have to go to the hospital with my aunt. So that's why I haven't been involved as much. So we can all send prayers for my Aunt Grace right now. Thank you.
We will. So sorry to hear that. And but thank you both for being here. I think it was really, really worthwhile. A lot of good points and energy and things to contemplate and think more about. Vina's going to say a few things to sort of wrap us up, and then Christy is going to do our closing song, which, by the way, if anybody has a song they would love to share at the end of one of these satsangs, you are welcome to volunteer for that. But go ahead, Vina.
I just also want to thank Bailey and Dennis. Thank you so much. I feel super inspired to come and learn from y'all and everyone who's over there. So thank you for sharing today. Like Michael mentioned earlier in the presentation today, we're going to take a break next Sunday for Easter, but then keep tuned for a series of Sunday gatherings like the ones we've been having to resume starting April 11. We'll have more opportunities to meet each other in breakout rooms and get to know each other a little bit and share with each other. And so with that, I already have a homework assignment for you if you're inspired. I invite you over the next 2 weeks to take some time and think about what inspires you about community, what gifts and talents you have that you'd like to share with community, and what you hope to gain from being in community. And that'll be fun. We'll share with each other. That was one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is there's been a few emails coming in, people asking, how can I help? How can I help with the Polestar Village project? And there's a couple of fun things that come to mind right now. We're playing with new logos and ideas around new logos about the garden. And if anyone is feeling creative, has a knack for graphic design, that give us a call or contact us. We'd love to work with you. We're also renewing our website. So if anybody is really handy with WordPress, we could use your help too. And finally, I just want to remind everyone that we are a nonprofit, a 501c3. So your donations are always appreciated and are tax deductible. So if you would like to donate, please do at polestargardens.org or contact us directly. I think that's about it. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you, Vina. All right. Well, really great to see you all. And thanks again, Dennis and Bailey. And let's hear from Christy.
May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, my